was a kid, this is what happened to me. And then, and then when I was in my previous relationship, this is what she did to me. And so true, so valid. But what you're forgetting is that the other side of that equation is, do you know what may have triggered your spouse or your significant other?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Whether you've been married 1 or 20 plus years, at some point, you realized you were married into crazy.
And that's what our podcast is all about. We offer love, laughter, and a dose of reality as we unpack this crazy thing called marriage.
So sit back, relax, and get your ear hustle on. It's time to start the conversation.
All right, let's go. Hey everyone, this is Snooks.
And Lovey.
Have you ever felt that you need additional assistance enhancing your intimacy?
Wait, what are you talking about?
Okay, I'm not talking about in the bedroom. I'm talking about making the connection with your partner.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you know what? There's an app for that.
Yeah, and it's called Intimately Us.
I love that app because you know what? You get to play so many different games.
Yeah, you're interrupting. They have Battle Strip.
And Sexy Twister, which is one of my favorites.
And they also have conversation starters and...
I love the how-to. There's a how-to where you can actually learn techniques and things that you want to try with each other along with the sexploration list.
So I was going to say, they also have great date ideas. So if this sounds good to you, download the app at r.intimately.us/MIC.
That's r.intimately.us/MIC.
The link will be in the show notes. Now let's get ready for the podcast.
Welcome to episode 193 of the Married into Crazy podcast with Snooks and Lovey. I'm Lovey.
I'm Snooks.
Once upon a time, not long ago, we did a podcast called the Snooks and Lovey Show. She didn't want me to do that. How many of you guys really know? I mean,
Lovey does not listen to instructions.
I don't.
Oh gosh.
I was that kid. They said, okay, sit here. When they came back, I was standing on the table.
Oh, okay.
True story.
So now I know where our grandson gets it from.
Yeah,
so when
he gets
you
it
start
honest.
trying to go off on a little bit, I'm gonna be like, you're not gonna mess with my man like that.
He gets it honest.
My little guy.
That's for sure. Well, it is the Married into Crazy podcast. And yes, at one point it was called the Snooks and Lovey Show in the very, very beginning back in 2018. And then I think we appropriately changed it to Married into Crazy because that's exactly what I did. Married into Crazy. Though you all know.
He did. He married into compassion. He married into realism. He married into accountability. He married into zealousness. And that's it.
Yeah, because she's not yielding. She is not yielding. Oh, my goodness. So if you're watching us on YouTube, on our channel, which, by the way, if you haven't gone over to YouTube and subscribed to the channel, please go over to YouTube and look up Married into Crazy and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, and you'll actually get the video, get the opportunity not just to hear us, but to actually see us when we have these conversations, so you could really understand what I go through when Snooks, just like that, when she just makes a face at me.
Because I'm like, what you go through?
So what you would see is that you see this ninja looking at me because you get assault. I'm claiming assault. See, on Mother's Day, something happened. So the week prior to Mother's Day, our youngest daughter, Kiana, she was diagnosed with COVID. Mm-hmm. And her best friend passed it on to her. They're not quite sure. They may have gotten it together, but I say that her best friend gave it to her. And then Kiana brought it home, so we isolated her. She was upstairs, quarantined in her room. She was like Quasimodo. She never came out of the room, which isn't far from what she does now anyway. But she was up there. Everything was cool. And we had this big Mother's Day celebration that we had talked about. The tea party. Outside. It was an outdoors event.
We called and we let everybody know Kiana had COVID. She wasn't going to be part of it. So if you felt okay, because we were testing and we were testing negative. So if you felt fine, you felt okay, we'll be outside. And
we tested every single day up to Mother's Day. Mm-hmm. And we're all negative. And then family came over.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, family came over. Everybody was cool, whatever. Um, so that next day on that Monday, Ashanti tested positive,
As did Isaiah.
and and Zay. So, I took a test. I was negative.
I'm negative.
No,
Less
Lovey was
negative.
negative, and so I started. I started feeling kind of, feeling some kind of way, not feeling all that great. Took another test. I was still negative, and then I think what the third day or whatever.
Thursday you tested.
Thursday I tested positive, and
The day after, our sister-in-law tested positive.
no, she tested positive before me.
Yeah, you tested on Thursday. She
Oh,
tested on Wednesday.
yeah, you said the day after. I
I
thought
said,
you meant the day after me. Anyway, I tested positive the day after my sister tested positive. So, yeah, that's why we look like.
yeah, I look medical. She
Well,
looks like a ninja. Like,
that's right. I got the stars and everything. Don't
for
make me
real.
throw them.
She got some nunchucks hidden somewhere.
I do. I know how to use them too.
So that's why we look the way we do right now. And so I've been sleeping on the couch since Thursday.
I've been sleeping in the bed.
She's been sleeping in the bed. Y'all like, oh, he a punk. Look,
Well, I actually asked him, did he want me to sleep? I was like, you could sleep upstairs or whatever. And he said no, he'll sleep downstairs. I think it was probably more for self-preservation because if I slept downstairs, that means that's more
she would
square
contaminate the whole
feet
area.
to contaminate exactly. So I'm fine. I'm doing great. Initially we were very concerned about
Because of your heart.
because of my heart condition. But I was like, no, Lord, I got this. You got this. You already healed me, so I'm good.
Yeah, Jesus was like, what heart condition? I healed that.
But, I didn't tell him until a couple days later, but I was having some chest pains. Um, Initially, I was like, uh-oh, but just kind of monitoring, keeping watch. If it started feeling kind of funny, I would have said something funnier, I should say. More
See,
pain
y'all
or
need to tell the
whatever.
truth. Listen, wives. Listen, husbands.
Oh, brother.
Look, if something's going on, y'all need to tell the truth to each other
But
because that's
babe,
just a source of argument for later on.
what I'm saying is that if it would have progressed like it did last time, because now I know the difference in the pain. I really, because I'll know. I know the difference. So
Okay.
therefore, I would have said something. I was checking, I was making sure. Plus, I'm taking the medicine like I'm supposed to be. I'm just saying, because I already know how it would have went down if I would have said I had some chest pains or whatever. He would have been like, all right, get your stuff. We're going back to the hospital.
Amen.
And we wasn't going back to the hospital.
And I would have been safe. I would have been able to sleep in the bed.
Wow. You was just going to drop me off?
Oh, and go. Keep it moving.
That's funny. But I already said, though, if I had to go back, I was packing a bag. I was going to bring my own stuff. So
She gonna be the first person to show up to a hospital with her linen, her pillow.
I promise. I
I
would
know
brought my own pillow.
She takes her
'Cause-
pillow when we go on trips too. So
Well, not all trips, just driving ones. Because I don't sleep very well in the hotel with a
anyway,
pillow. Anyway,
That's
don't
what's-
bring it up and then I start talking and you cut me off.
well, that's what we've been going through,
That's what we've been going through. So that's why I look like a ninja.
right?
I
And so
look like a cute ninja, though.
you are a cute ninja.
Anyway,
Them tricks you be doing. Look,
I'll tie you up.
okay. Look, y'all.
When we don't have the social distance, though.
Yeah, true. Right now we're social
yeah.
distancing. Even in the podcast, I'm trying to keep my distance.
He look like, oh, you're getting too close.
Right? I'm like, look, don't look. Hey, don't get too close, girl.
Whatever.
So, but we were just talking about, that's a point of contention. I want to know what's going on with you, so that way we don't have an argument. But not everybody recovers well from arguments. So we were talking earlier about different things happening in society because I read an article about, I want to say it was like 2 days. Listen, y'all. Unless it's a true marriage article, I just read the headline and the first few paragraphs and I'm done with it. So I didn't read the whole article, but there was a thing that caught my eye that said that Bill Gates had mentioned that he would marry Melinda all over again. And it made me think. So I started reading a little bit. Then I was like, okay, whatever. It's just, eye candy. Or, I mean, what's it called?
Eye candy.
When they try and catch you.
The tablet, the little banner.
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
Clickbait.
Oh, I
It's
didn't
called
even know it was
clickbait.
called anything.
So I went in and I read a little bit of it. And I was like, okay, but it got me thinking, how bad were the arguments? What was the irreconcilable differences? Because a lot of the people that we over the years, people that we've talked to, that we've, even before we became official coaches and started having clients, when we're just doing these, people seem to think that their marriages are supposed to be argument free, and we're not supposed to have fights. And if we do, it's supposed to be little fights, nothing big. And I think that's a fallacy, because it's not that you're not going to have arguments or not going to have issues or not going to have challenges. You're going to, because you're human. Mm-hmm. But it's about what happens after that.
Well, so I mean, my take on it is like you said, it's not that you're not gonna have the arguments. I honestly thought that. What makes a good marriage? A good marriage is when you don't argue, when you don't fight, and when you don't have issues like stuff that's gonna make you fight. Until we talk about perpetual issues. There are things that always comes up all the time, over and over. So it's not so much that you're not going to have disagreements, arguments, or fights or whatever. It's how you work through them and how you come back from them. Because some people are not able to get past what another person said.
No, true. It's got to be the bounce back.
The bounce back. Okay, I like that. We should name the podcast The Bounce Back.
Okay, your wish is my command.
The bounce back.
Okay, she's twerking now.
I'm bouncing back.
Right? Look, this PG just turned PG-13.
Whatever.
So, no, but it's all about the bounce back, because, look, you're going to get in arguments, and it's like, it's inevitable. Like, what do you call it? Those perpetual things that transpire. And it's not that you avoid having them. I mean, you should try and avoid having them, but it's not that you can. But when they do happen, because storms are going to come, no matter what. There's a reason why we all own umbrellas. Because you know that at some point you're going to have to walk through a storm.
It's going to be a big major one.
And when it happens, what do you do afterwards? It's like, how do you get that bounce back? How do you bounce back? What's the process by which that happens? And it's not that it won't prevent it from happening again. It just prepares you to recognize it the next time it comes around, to truly try to identify what the challenge was, see it coming on again. You may not be able to stop it, but then it's like, okay, we can bounce back faster. It's always about fail, like in business. It's like you're going to fail fast, fail gloriously, recognize the signs, so that way when you fail the next time, you bounce back that much quicker. So many millionaires, billionaires, successful serial entrepreneurs, they're not immune from having failure.
So if I could jump in here a little bit, just kind of deal with I won't say how you bounce back or how you bounce back, but how you work through that process of, of the bounce back, I guess it is. So, say we have an argument.
Okay.
And what would be that process? Like, I think a lot of people get caught in, how do I maneuver through the process of finding our way back and trying to, because you go through, I don't say us, but, or a lot of couples, but some couples go through for days not talking.
If not longer.
Exactly. And they just be like, and then when you do talk, or when they start talking again, a lot of times, whatever it was, that thing was, they don't talk about that thing. They just kind of skirt around it for fear, number one, if I talk about it, is going to bring up some more stuff. We're going to get back into it again. Or number two, they just don't know how to talk about it, not constructively, but
yeah, I guess.
Okay.
No, that sounds good, constructively.
In a positive way, to where we can have this conversation and we can talk about it, because we, as people, a lot of times we don't know how to sit and listen. you know. So like if I'm telling you, or I'll be the bad person. If you're telling me I did something and I made you feel some kind of way about whatever, I'm going to try to justify more times than not as a, I'm going to try to justify why I said or why I did whatever.
Well, I said
Instead
it
of,
only because.
exactly. Instead of just letting you say, this is how I felt. These are my feelings. Blah, 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 blah. And that's a learning thing for the person receiving the information, but also I feel like the person that's giving it yourself, instead of you just telling me this is how I felt, you're going to tell me this is how I felt because you blah, blah, blah. Does that make sense?
Right, I hear you.
We have a thing that we say, keep the main thing the main thing. And the main thing at that point is this is just how I felt. So the main thing is to tell me what your feelings are.
Okay.
And not to,
I like that.
Okay.
No, that's good. No, just focus on the feelings. Like, look, let's just start off by revisiting what the problem was or what we went through. But I don't want to talk about the problem just yet. Let's just talk about how we made each other feel.
Mm-hmm.
And then, go ahead.
Just saying it, being respectful like I just wasn't, and letting that person have the floor. Because it's always a over. You're not going to out-talk me.
No.
You're not going to out
It's
whatever.
a tit for tat. It's like, okay, who gets the last word?
It's competitive. We're very competitive people. Even in our arguments, we're competitive. You're not finna outdo me. I'm fit. What? Because number one, first of all, those are
Ooh, once I hear it, first of all, I'm like, dang, really?
Whatever.
First of all,
there's always going to be a second.
Oh, and I'm like, and I know if I hear first of all, I know I done screwed up. I don't know what I did half the time, but I'm like, but I know that.
Babe, you know what you did if I say first of all.
I have an inkling. I might have an idea.
I'm just willy-nilly around here. First of all.
I was in the house somewhere. I was like, first of all, he was in the house.
Whatever.
He was in the kitchen when you wasn't supposed to be.
Whatever. Well, there's that. So.
No, but there's the feelings, right? So you have to recognize that and really be willing to talk about just that. Mm-hmm. How you made each other feel. Mm-hmm. But then, I mean, there's other things as well. It's not just about the feelings. You also have to be willing to see things from the other person's perspective. Mm-hmm. Because here's the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not her. She's not me. Mm-hmm. There was this thing I saw on the internet. Really cool. There's this guy, they call him the greatest teacher or something. I don't even know what the guy's name is.
Oh, you talking about the guy with the ball?
Yes.
Okay.
There's this really cool thing where these guys, I know it was a reenactment, but he had students in a class that were arguing. And he said, look, come up to the front of the room. He made him get up there in front of the class, and he put this ball on the table because he had these guys apart from each other on separate sides of the room, opposite sides of the room. And he asked one guy, what do you see? A ball. What do you see? A ball. Okay, what color is the ball? The guy's like, this is just stupid. And he's like, it's white. And the guy's like, you just want to start an argument. It's black. And he's like, no. And he says, the guys, tell him to be quiet. Now, switch sides. And when they switched sides, they both saw that the ball, from the perspective of the other person, mm-hmm. was exactly the opposite. Because the ball was painted white on one side and black on the other. Mm-hmm. But the other, when they were in their first vantage point, they couldn't see from the other person's view. They just thought one guy thought it was just being argumentative, and here we go again, about to have another fight. But that's how everything is. What's her name? Julie Gottman.
Oh.
Has this thing where she talked about if she and John actually were to draw a tree. He's sitting on one side of the room, and they're looking at the same tree, and then she's looking out the window, and then she's drawing a tree as well. Chances are that the way he draws the tree is going to be very different from the way that she draws the tree, mm-hmm. because they're looking at it from two different angles, but it's the same tree.
That's what I say, still the tree.
Yep, still the tree. Mm-hmm. And I have to say that that's the exact same thing when it comes to our problems or our challenges that we're arguing over.
Yeah, I agree, because it is about the other person's perspective. It's just that sometimes we don't care about the other person's perspective because we're narcissistic when we argue,
So most
I
times
am
we
right.
don't care.
I am this. I is always starts with I blah blah blah. Most argument, I won't say. I feel like a lot of arguments are typically because of I statements. You know, I this, I that, or they're you statements like, well, you blah blah blah, you did it, you know. So,
Well, and that's where empathy comes in, right? Granted, if we're having an argument, empathy is probably the last thing we're going to enter into the argument. But if we're going to revisit and really try and move beyond the challenge, and again, we're talking about the bounce back. We're talking about trying to repair the damage that we had just done to each other and to our relationship.
so, and just jumping in just real quick, when you talk about the bounce back, hopefully by that time, when we're able to come back and we talk about our feelings, we're each able to talk about dealing the reality, you know, R and crazies for being real. So we've said this before, you know, we kind of joked about it. Um, there are times when we have these arguments with ourselves about things that did not even happen, in the car, and be like, oh, because when I see him, because I already know he gonna say and blah 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 whatever, and I'm gonna do blah 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 and da 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 whatever. Um, that's not a real thing. So when I'm coming in, I'm hot and heavy and I'm ready to, like, well, let's get it. And you say something totally, and I was like, a lot of times you just take the wind out of me. I was like, dang nabbit, you know, I
I
had
was
a
supposed
good
to say
one.
that. That was not in the script.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, what? But hopefully by the time we were ready for the bounce back, we've had time to assess what really happened, what the realities really are, you know, because let's be honest too, we can talk about how we felt, but sometimes our feelings keep us from seeing the real reality of what it really is. I'm just trying to be my feelings. All I see is how I feel. I don't see the real. All I see is how I feel. So we get caught up.
We have a tendency to hold on to that misery or those negative feelings, and I don't know why, because they don't make us feel good, but it makes us feel justified.
Cause we wear like armor. That's my armor. What you mean? That gives me the strength to keep going, and I'm gonna
To get
keep
my
playing
way.
that. I'm gonna keep playing that, and it's gonna over and over. It's like a tape. I'm gonna rewind it, and I'm just gonna hear it. I'm gonna hear that one part, and I'm gonna rewind it, and I get more hyphy
But
about
that's
it.
that's where the empathy comes from. Being willing to, even if you're not willing, if you want your relationship, whether you're married or not, premarital, long-term relationship, if you really want your relationship to thrive, you've got to find a way to insert some empathy and try and see things from the other person's perspective. Because
Well,
what if,
go ahead. Sorry.
I would say, what if I was looking at it completely wrong? Yes, we're talking about the exact same thing. But what if I was just looking at it through my lens, which is exactly what's transpiring? I'm looking at it through my lens, through my triggers, through the things that I've dealt with as a child and potentially in my previous relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But you're doing the exact same thing. But we were thinking, but this is what I went through. I did this when I was a kid. This is what happened to me. And then and then when I was in my previous relationship, this is what she did to me. And so true, so valid. But what you're forgetting is that the other side of that equation is, do you know what may have triggered your spouse or your significant other? What about their childhood? What about their previous relationships? Maybe they have a solution that has never been introduced to you, or maybe they went through something just as
Mm-hmm.
traumatic, if not worse.
I was getting ready to say that there are a lot of triggers, and I think that's one thing that people don't give credit for or give credence to are the triggers, the things that have happened in previous relationships or childhood, um, things that we saw. Those things affect us in so many ways, and even if it's not in our conscious mind, in our subconscious mind, those things are a factor. But too many times, I mean, this could be its own podcast later on, something. We're so, we're taught to shake it off, brush it off. Why are you bringing that up? That's old. That's not relevant. That's not this. There's not that. But it is, you know, it is. And, you know, I say, we could probably talk about it at a different time. It's more men, I feel like, than it is women because
Why so?
I feel like because the way that boys grow up, just
Toughen
like
up, shake it off.
I was getting ready to say, so just like we had an incident at the house, it's not an incident, but our grandson, he fell. He was sitting and granted, he was sitting in the chair the wrong way, like he shouldn't have been. So our table is like a high table. We have like bar stool tables or whatever, high back, whatever you call them. So he was in the chair and doing something he wasn't supposed to do,
Joe Acrobat.
but he fell and he landed, like I say on his face, but he fell and he hit his face. So I turned. I'm in the kitchen and whatever I had, I threw it down on the counter and I swooped him up and I went right to comfort mode. You know, Lovey is like, oh, he's. Would you say he's fine or not so much that he's fine, but that whole he was part of that.
I know I said something. I'm like, well, he won't do that again.
Yeah, something along those lines, like. And I got mad.
You only do those things once.
I got mad, but even so, even though that's very true, hopefully you only do those things once, but at the same time, you still can show some compassion for the fact that he got hurt. Show the compassion, and then we could talk about the lessons that you learned or whatever.
Oh, but then
no, listen, let me finish. So this is kind of going to my point. What I was saying, more men, because you're not the only person that's ever done that. Our son does that sometimes to him, to our grandson. Oh, he's fine, blah blah. And I'm like, boy, I'm about to throw these bowls with you. Don't ever, Mom, he could be, but I'm like, where's the compassion? Where's the comfort? But you're teaching him to shake it off, don't show emotion, and just be tough and whatever. And that stuff transitions into different areas. It's not just when you fall and hurt yourself. You're going to remember not to cry, not to this, not to that. So when I'm hurting, that means I can't show that. I have to be tough. I have to be whatever.
Well, it's be 100% honest. That's that toxic masculinity that we talk about.
That's why I said.
No, you're right. I mean, but I was going to say on the flip side of that is a day later, he was doing it all over again. And this time he actually fell off the chair and he was running to the chair. He slipped and he hit his head on the tile floor. And at that moment, I showed compassion because I felt like that was a real injury. I was like,
him falling out the big chair on the floor like that. That's not a real injury.
well, I felt like
Now we finna have an argument. Y'all gonna have to see us bounce back.
I was like, okay, let's check it for a concussion. Let's hold him, and are you okay? I was all into it then. But I mean, but there is that toxic masculinity that goes along with it. But that's a whole other.
That's why I said that
whole
could have been
other
his own
topic.
podcast.
It's a whole other topic.
I'm just,
But it is one of those things where, but it does speak to the empathy part. It speaks to the real of, is that something that are we really addressing what it is? But here's the challenging thing though. When we have two different perspectives, we also have two different realities, because your view is your reality based on your past, your triggers.
Mm-hmm.
My perspective is very real. That's my reality. Mm-hmm. And the challenge is that we're not willing to recognize that there's more than one reality at play. And we think that, nope, my way. This is what happened to me. This is how I felt. And this is the way. And you need to accommodate me. Mm-hmm. And while we do need to be accommodating, we also have to be willing to recognize that it's never truly black and white. It's not just one way.
Yeah, a lot of people, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people say it's either black or white. And it's like, no, because we actually live in gray. It's never either or. There's always, I'm trying to make sure that both of my hands are seen, but whatever. I feel like, it's either, you say, well, it's either black or it's white. It's like, well, no, because maybe some stuff, everything's not so linear where it's just going to be
well, and the world has changed dramatically, so it's no longer black, white, or gray. I mean, it's got a gazillion different colors.
Yeah.
And there's hues to those colors,
Yeah,
and
that's true.
there's so much in now that we have to consider. because there's many more perspectives. In the past, it was black and white. It was like, it's right or wrong, and that's it is. And we're supposed to just take that trauma and suppress it and, push it down and leave it alone until it festers and pops up down the road. And people drank or smoked or abused or did all these different things. And now we're in a culture where it's like, no, you know what? Let's talk about it. Let's really get this thing out there so we don't have to keep this cycle flowing. And the same thing when it comes to our relationships. You don't have to sit here and wallow in, like, well, we had this horrible, discussion or argument or whatever. Now it's time for us to break up. Now, if there's abuse, we always say, barring abuse, whether it be physical, mental, spiritual, financial, verbal, any type of abuse you can think of, barring that, these are things that we can learn from, that we can actually bounce back from. And I say, we have to be willing to take responsibility for our part in the conversation.
Well, when we take responsibility, we need to be I feel like we need to be very specific on what we're taking responsibility for. So many times we're, okay, I'm sorry. What are you sorry for? I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and if you guys want to, I don't remember the episode, but go back and listen to the apology. We had a whole podcast on the apology language. That was really good. But be willing to actually express your apology in a manner in which the other person's able to hear it. Because the way I want to be apologized to, I mean, it's just to rehash, the way I want to be apologized to, or how I would accept it and understand that the person's truly authentic, could be very different than the way that they have a tendency to express their apology. Though very sincere from their perspective, again, we're talking about perspectives and realities. We need to have more conversations about how we see the world.
Well, and as a couple, like you said, I mean, we always say we have to sit down and we have to come together so that when I do say I'm sorry or whatever, I'm speaking it just like Lovey just said in his language, because I could be talking and preaching and whatever, and he just looking at me like, okay, what? And I'm like, what do you mean what? I just said blah, blah, blah. And
I didn't receive any of it.
He didn't receive any. And he's like, now you're pontificating or whatever it is, And that doesn't just go for apology. That goes for everything. I've always have to remember, okay, Lovey has his own way of seeing things. He has his own perspective. So let's have a conversation about XYZ. And then we'll go from there. And this is just something that we even, when we talk with our clients too, we've done the DISC assessment. And one of the big key things is, what is that, page 19? It talks about how it points out, excuse me, how you like to receive information and how the other person likes to receive information. We always say, swap pages. And so now I know how he likes to receive information. He knows how I like to receive information. So if my my mission or my goal is really to reach him, I'm going to make sure that I'm looking at that page. Excuse me. And say, okay, Lovey likes blah, 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 whatever. And it's going to take me not being prideful, because no one said that this is an easy type of thing. Right. Marriage ain't for the weak. You can't be no punk and be married, because.
But it's fun.
It is fun. It's a whole bunch of fun. But I'm sure football's fun. But I mean,
it hurts.
Ain't nobody just finna get out there and be playing with the big boys or the big girls or whatever. Anything that's worth working, worth having, worth doing is going to require work. It's going to require you to be invested in it. So, however it is that you all are able to communicate, make sure that you are doing those things, because you could just be sitting here talking this and y'all just speaking two different languages, and it's like, he just doesn't get me, or she just doesn't get me, and I've tried everything and I tried everything, right. And it's just not, and
sometimes it's going to be frustrating. Sometimes it can definitely be frustrating, but that doesn't mean that okay, well, let me placate this person. Let me just go ahead and apologize just to get it over with. Don't do it just to kind of speed along the process or give in. There is a part in Married into Crazy where the Y stands for yielding. Yielding is still built on sincerity. Like, you know what? I believe that you're better suited to handle this, or you know, you're right. Let me yield. You're not saying, let me yield, but you're saying, like, you know what?
I want you to say it.
I'm going to one of these days. I yield. But I want to do but it's one of those things where you give way. Like, okay, you know, hey, let's try it your way. That's yielding.
Yeah.
All right, babe, you know, let's go that. I want to follow up on your idea. You know, stuff like that. But don't sit there and be like, oh, you know what, whatever. You know what, fine. Fine. Let's just do it your way. That's not a yield.
That's not a yield at all.
That is just that's just placating somebody. And all you're gonna do, honestly, you just threw some more fuel on the fire.
Because that isn't.
Okay, let me stop you there. Two things. When I hear ooh, so as soon as I hear ooh, what usually follows this? First of all, so when I get a ooh, and a first of all, it's all bad. It's all bad. At that point, I'm just like, oh, I'm in so much trouble.
Okay. Anyway, I was going to say, first of all.
See? You already know.
That is so funny.
Look, while we got
right,
you, look,
right,
I hope you guys are enjoying this conversation. Look, sometimes this podcast is not about giving you answers. It's giving you food for thought.
Yeah.
We're not telling you what to do. We're just telling you, let's think through the process. Because you will have an argument. One that's going to hurt. One that's going to anger you. That's going to have you look at the other person like, why are we even together?
Why? just go to sleep.
Yeah, don't go to sleep with both eyes closed. But there's going to be those moments, and you've got to bounce back from it. You have to.
I mean, you like Lovey said, you have to bounce back, because if you don't bounce back, you just continue to grow further and further apart. You know, marriage is about communicating effectively, doing a great job at it. And let's just be honest, there will be times where, like you said, you fail. Initially, you're just like, this is not working. This is, what the heck is happening?
You're going to fail forward.
Yeah.
You know, that's what the relationship's all about. Look, we've been married 25 years. We know people that got it in gear, you know, year 5, and they've been, you know, blessed. You know, there's other people that are like on year 30, and they're like, we still figuring it out. Look, we're going to be 80 years old at some point, still working on our marriage. It's a work in progress. You have to realize that. Sometimes it's heavy construction, sometimes it's light construction, but it is always a work in progress.
And if you feel like that work in progress is getting to be a little bit too much for you, then go online to marriedandcrazy.com and click on that coaching tab and set up a discovery call.
Click on the coach tab, set up a discovery call. We will have that conversation with you. We've been meeting some great couples and people that we really look forward to working with and that we're enjoying working with. The other thing, too, we should have said it early on, but listen, do us a huge favor. You don't have to worry about compensating us or paying us for listening to the podcast because it's free. But one thing you could do to really help us out is go to either Spotify.com or to Apple Podcasts and leave a review and a rating. That we would just take a couple of minutes out of your day to actually do that, and then tell a friend and invite them to do the same. That would make us immensely happy. The other thing, though, is that if you are looking for a community, for people to actually, you know, just chop it up with every now and then, get some little tidbits of information here and there, just checking in from time to time to see what's going on. If you're on Facebook, look up the Iron Tribe Marriage Community, right? So it's Iron Tribe, the Marriage Community. That's where we go to work with other couples. Not to say work with, but to actually interact with other couples. And there's people from all over the world that are actually participating in this. And we invite you to actually join the Iron Tribe as well, because we have some pretty major announcements that are about to take place. And we're going to actually roll it out via the Iron Tribe first. We're going to be doing it live very, very, very soon. We're going to get back into doing our lives, and we're going to make a major announcement on a live, and we're most likely going to do it through Facebook Live. We're going to do it through our Iron Tribe, the marriage community, and we would love for all of you to be aware of it so you can be the first to know in the entire world. So, with that said, until the next time, be blessed.
Bye-bye.